My name is Lydia Ogwang, and I'm a member of the Platform Selection Committee for the Toronto International Film Festival. And it is my pleasure to welcome back to the stage David Zonana and Michel Franco. That was absolutely beautiful.
Thank
David.
you.
Thank you. I want to just start with the basics because this is your world premiere. So I think what everyone's kind of wondering is very top line. How did this come together? I know that you wrote the screenplay yourself and that you and Michel have been working together for a long time. So did you just want to speak about how the project came together?
Yeah, exactly. I've been working with Michel for a long time. And this project was born after I made some short films, and I decided it was time to try a feature film. Yeah, I mean, it's just the idea came out of just living in Mexico and being witness to the contrasts, the social and economical contrast we have there. So pretty much that's how it came to life.
And I believe everyone in the film, with the exception of Luis Alberti in the lead role of Francisco, they're all non-actors. Is that correct?
Yeah. They are all construction workers and their families, and it was also interesting for me because it helped me write. Getting involved with them, not only to prepare the cast for the roles, but also was good to me when writing and during the process. But they did an excellent job, and this is also for them, and I'm happy for them that they have the chance to make something different. And yeah.
That's great. I feel like that's a very ambitious choice on your first feature to work with non-actors. Can you talk a bit about that and how that process was?
Yeah, we talked about it. We talked about it, Michel and I, when we were preparing all this, and when it was the time to make the decision. And yeah, I asked him like what do you think? But he's always very he lets me commit my mistakes if I make them, and he makes me also take the decision. So he was very supportive when I told him like, yeah, let's do non-actors and take a risk, because I think that's what cinema is for, taking risks, and especially if it's your first feature, you have to do some extreme things. But fortunately it worked out, and we made a film that we're happy with.
I want to. There are a lot of different elements to the story that you're telling. So there's kind of the story of the family that emerges a little bit later in the film, but it kind of starts out as the story of Francisco himself, and he and his brother after his brother passes away. And then you also have this larger idea of, community and collective labor. And throughout all of those different kind of narratives, you have this kind of erosion that sets in throughout all of the events of the story. So can you talk about your decision to kind of tell the story using all of those different routes and your insight into that?
Well, yeah, I wanted to talk a little bit about human condition, human morals, and the way, Francisco starts. He's a victim, and there are many victims like him. And trying to seek justice in Mexico is very common because the regular legal ways, it's not so simple sometimes with people in their condition. So it starts like that, like a social drama. But I also wanted to talk about what happens after some situations like this, when revolutions in Latin America, where sometimes there is an ideal, but after it gets done, people start taking the side they were fighting against. They start converting into what they fought against, and that's I think due to the lack of morality and corruption. And I wanted to explore this with Francisco, and having him first portrayed as a social victim, and then having some power, and what happens when that power comes to you. And we have seen that a lot of times the history of humankind. So I wanted to explore that.
Absolutely. So the end of the film, I think, is a little bit ambiguous. I know the first time that I watched it, I was kind of unsure what happened. So do you kind of see it as, do you see Francisco kind of taking that 180-degree turn to, I guess, taking advantage of the situation? Is that kind of how you envisioned the story when you were writing it?
Yeah. I wanted to try to explore this transformation. I don't know, the public maybe saw it the wrong way, and it's okay because I understand it's a film and everyone can have their opinion. But yeah, I mean, also if they have questions about the ending or whatever, yeah, I'm happy to answer.
Yeah, I mean, I think the ambiguity really adds something to it, because we kind of we go through this journey with Francisco, and he seems to be a very virtuous person. So I found it for myself, and at least at the end, I was kind of the prospect that he could then take advantage of his own community really upset me, right?
Yeah.
So maybe that was kind of my resistance to that. I want to open it up to the audience. If you have a question, I would love if you could raise your hand really high because it's really bright. I will repeat the question before we answer. So let's go right there to that person waving.
Hey, love your film.
Thank you.
Just wanted to ask how you chose what to hold back on. Like you showed the suicide, but we didn't see the murder.
Yeah.
We saw him having sex with the first girl, but we didn't see what happened with the younger girl. And at the end, we start to see the beginning of the phone call, but then again, open. I was wondering when you were developing it or writing it, how that process came about.
Great. So the question was about the choice to, I guess, show some of the more salacious elements of the film on screen, like the death at the beginning, and some of the more sexual elements as well, and then the choice to conceal others.
Yeah. Well, I enjoy the films. When I watch films, I enjoy the ones that allow me to create my own images. That allows me, when I'm a spectator, to project my own personality into the character and blend with him, in a way. So that's what I enjoy when I watch films, and I wanted to give the opportunity for the audience to get involved in the story and create their own scenes that are not explicit, and so they become part of it. You become part of the story.
Other questions? Let's go up here.
I want to congratulate both of you for the amazing work.
Thank you.
I also want to congratulate you for giving the opportunity to non-actors, open doors to people that perhaps never thought to participate on a movie like this. And also, touching this subject is the first time I see it in this way, and it's very, very well done, especially because you kind of the voice of the injustice that they live. In a way, their dignity is denigrated, and they have to tolerate so many things because they don't have the money they needed. So the abuse of needing the resources to keep on going their day-to-day life. So it's an amazing.
Do you have a question?
Yes, I do. And well, first I want to congratulate the work, and for this subject, this is the first time I see it, so in a way it's just to congratulate you.
Sure. Okay, great. Does anyone else have a question? Let's go right there. Thank you.
I had a lot of questions. There's definitely a lot of artistry to this film. And one thing that struck me was that you also had a theatrical approach to blocking, where you had you almost had a perfect angle into the shot. And you were able to almost focus on everything.
Absolutely. So the question was about the use of space in the film, which I was wondering about as well, and how, as the viewer, we're able to see so much, and whether that has a deeper significance or whether that was just an aesthetic choice that you made.
Yeah, well, in this project, which, as you say, is my first one, I decided to shoot it this way because I wanted to focus on the story and on the actors, and also give them freedom to be themselves, because it's easier for them to express when things aren't complicated. So I wanted to keep it as simple as possible and give them freedom to move around the room, and not to focus a lot on the camera, you know. So I blocked the scene, working with them and telling them what I needed, and then I thought I spoke with the cinematographer in each scene, and we decided where the camera was better to be, knowing where they would move or how they would represent each scene. So the priority was them and the story, and the camera then reacted to that. Yeah.
And I actually wanted to talk a little bit more about that, because I think there's this interesting juxtaposition between the emotion in the story. It's obviously a very emotional story. There's a lot of heart. But then the space that they're kind of convening in is so sterile, which you notice definitely at the beginning as they're building the house. But then, you know, there's the shot where Francisco is in the bathtub, for example, and everything is just gray and white and very kind of austere. Was that also a choice as well, the emotional side of it?
Yeah, well, that's just reality. I mean, I shot in their houses. It's their houses, and the house that they were building, it's a house in a rich neighborhood in Mexico. So really, I didn't make up anything, and the contrasts are real and are natural and are sad, you know. So yeah, Francisco in the bathtub is just a symbol for hundreds and millions of people that are building things that they won't be able to use never. So yeah.
More questions? I see one back there, the person in the hat.
Thanks. Congrats, you guys. I've seen Michelle's Disgusted and Chronic, amazing. And there's a simpatico between the vibe, the emotional tonality of the films. How much does your relationship influence each other? And on your first feature, you know, what kind of asset was Michelle?
That's great. So the question was about the working relationship between David and Michelle, who have been collaborators for a long time.
Yeah.
I whenever I'm producing a movie, and especially in this case, I just try to help out the director as much as I can, which often means not being on set and giving him space and let him come to me with whatever questions he has if he needs me, and, you know, reading drafts of the script and all. But yeah, pretty much just, you know, going with him throughout the whole process, and letting him do his thing. And well, this is the result of that process, and of working together for 7 years. When we met at the premiere of Después de Lucía in Cannes, and he was 20, and I told him, why don't you come and to the office? Maybe you could be interested in cinema, and this is what happened 7 years later. So yeah.
Yeah, and
But it's really, you know, I went on set once. I only visited, and when I say visited, I was there for 20 minutes, you know. So whatever happens is, for good or bad, is his thing, and of course in this case it's for the best. Yeah.
and of course he's a great influence. You know, I learned most of what I know about cinema working with him. So, and I love his films. So it's good for me that you say it has a similar vibe. Yeah.
Up here,
More questions? Yeah? I see you. Go for it.
you have a masterpiece of minimalism here. It's just great, that's all.
Minimalism.
I agree. Thanks.
Other questions? Right up here, please.
I'm wondering how much research you did into the laws around, like, workers' injuries and death. And, I mean, is it
So the question was actually about the legalities concerning the situations in the film and workers' compensation and also squatters' rights.
Well, first of all, these kind of accidents happen all the time in Mexico, and even worse. I mean, I heard cases where some construction workers are not from the city; they are from around the country, and sometimes they die, and it's more convenient to just bury them, and the family will never know, but than paying something, you know. So it happens, and I did the research, and I was talking. I spent a lot of time in constructions to write this, so I learned some stories and. About the squatting, yeah, that's a word.
Yep.
The squatting on the house. It's also. I mean, I live in a building. I live in the building that you saw. That's my house, and in front of that one, where the owner lived when the house was being built, and in front of that place, there is a squat house. There's because in Mexico law permits to live in a place if no one is claiming it, you can live, and I think if you're there like for 5 years, you can start a process and it becomes yours. So yeah.
More questions?
Yes.
Right up there.
Okay, so I saw Michel Franco in Berlin Film Festival when he was part of the jury, and he was with Gabriel Ripstein, everyone. And it was amazing to see them working together, teaming up for these collaborations with Tim Roth as well. So, as a producer, teaming up with Tim Roth, which is known in the cinema world, and now teaming up with him, you're jumping from inspiring others to supporting others. What do you think about that in terms of what you're doing for Mexican cinema all over the world?
Yeah, I think so. I think what you're trying to ask is just about the working relationship between David and Michel. Michel, did you want to speak on that at all in your history?
Yeah,
of Mexican cinema?
I did my best to support David when he was making short films, and then when he turned out the script for his first movie, I was convinced the movie was worth, doing, and he was very committed and serious. So I don't know, it's a very natural process. I believe both in the movie and in his talent, so it was a very natural thing to do. Yeah.
I think we've got time for one more. Let's go there.
My question is about your selection to use not a great sound, but also silence, where there's no communication from the actors. You're just using the visuals of the video. What did you want the audience to get from that?
So the question was about, thank you. The question was about the use of sound and ambient sound and a lot of silence between the characters and what David was trying to communicate with that.
Well, I think that's life, and in life there are a lot of moments of silence that are very strong as well, and try to portray that in the film. The sound is naturalistic, as you can see. I mean, I try to portray the sounds of constructions and all that, but also contrast them with their own lives, with because it's a chaotic world, and the contrast with the interior of these persons having sometimes struggling or living difficult moments. I thought it was interesting to explore. Yeah.
Can I suggest a question? Ask him about reshoots. That was an interesting process. Yeah.
David, I would love to know about reshoots.
Well, at the beginning we had set time for the shooting, which was a prolonged time because I thought the actors would have a difficult time acting, and but they didn't, and we ended up finishing like 1 week before schedule, so we had time to watch the film because we were editing simultaneously. And we were able to improve some scenes that we thought were worth it. And it was all due to the actors, which made a great job and allowed us to finish before time. So, and the idea, I used the idea of Michel of editing simultaneously.
But
So,
the original material was good. It's it had no problems, but he was able to improve it, to make it a little bit better. So the reshoots look great on screen, and it wasn't long after he wrapped shooting, so it was he still had the feeling and the actors as well. Yeah.
I think it turned out beautifully. I feel like this is such a wonderful, you get such a wonderful sense of your voice, David, but also you can see just that you worked so well with the actors and just were able to pull so much out of them and so much out of the entire production. So thank you both for being here with your world premiere and sharing it
thank
with
you.
us. Everybody, please give it up for David. Thanks very much, everyone. Have a great night.